Travel baseball.
Travel baseball.
Elite travel baseball.
Travel baseball.
My brutally honest take on travel baseball might surprise you. Hey guys, my name is Evan Mendoza. I've played 7 years of professional baseball, 3 years at the D1 level, played in a World Baseball Classic, and have trained along MLB superstars. And now I've helped over 200 families navigate this exact decision inside my Mendoza Baseball Academy. You'll want to stick around until the end because the last point is what I tell every single parent that we work with. And for those that are curious, I am starting a ride-along series where I'm being really raw, really just organic. That way you guys can get a little bit of an understanding about who I am, what I stand for, how I talk, things like that, making sure that you realize that I'm a real person. So I went to the top of my parking garage. That's why it just went dark, just to get some better lighting for the intro. And now I'm going to be taking the like 5 U-turns to get out of the parking garage. It's not always the most fun thing in the world, but and those are who are curious. I live in West Palm Beach, Florida. But let's talk about travel baseball because that's why you're here. You're not probably curious about where I live and what kind of car I drive and things like that. But travel baseball, first off, I want to run down my experience in travel baseball. So for those that are wondering, I started travel baseball when I was around 10 or 11 years old. I remember this decision vividly because Little League Baseball just wasn't competitive enough for me at my level. And yes, at my level. I was 9, 10, 11 years old when I started to really take the game of baseball seriously. And I didn't like how at the Little League level, they didn't take it serious. It was just a bunch of kids going out there to have fun. I did not like that lack of competitiveness. And that's probably the exact reason that, you know, families decide to go the travel ball route. But during high school, I think this is the most important time where travel ball changes. Travel ball in those early stages of basically, you know, middle school and maybe early high school, travel ball is different. And different, I mean, it's not the most important thing. In travel baseball, when you're young and you're in middle school, ideally travel baseball should really be more or less regional baseball. It shouldn't be nationwide travel. At the high school level, there's 1 year in particular, which if you guys stick around until the end, I'll share with you what that 1 year is. But basically, yeah, travel baseball, I started when I was 10, 11 years old because of the reason of wanting that competitiveness to be able to compete against better competition. And that's where, again, very regional. It was maybe the most travel that we had to do. We lived in a baseball town, Sarasota, Florida. The most that we had to travel was maybe 2 hours. I grew up in Sarasota, Florida. Been basically a Florida guy majority of my life. I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, but we didn't have to travel too much. And of course, those northeastern states, the ones that get snow, winter ball, it's going to be a lot harder to play winter ball when it's snowing out. But of course, that's another topic for another video. So yeah, so as far as really travel baseball, guys, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. There's going to be a point in time in high school where these travel ball organizations want to win. And is that the worst thing for your son? Absolutely not, because that starts to make him into this mindset of, okay, well, I can't just play just because I want to play. I actually have to be good, and that's going to give me the opportunity to play on, you know, a nationally ranked team or the showcase team or whatever you guys, you know, call it today. There were A teams and B teams back in my day when I played travel baseball as well. I played on a nationally ranked team. It was FTB. There were only 2 teams back then, so don't come after me in the comments saying that FTB has a million teams. Back then, it was the early stages where, honestly, the A team and the B team, we were both nationally ranked. We were both really, really good with everything that we had going on. So I split time between the B team and the A team. I'd say half of the summer I was with the B team. It was FTB Louisville Slugger that year. And then the A team was FTB Chandler. And basically that was the sponsor for that year. I think before that it was FTB Mizuno for the OGs out there. If you know, you know. But less about me. Let's talk about travel baseball and my opinions on what it looks like in today's landscape. Because today's travel ball landscape, it is crazy. There are so many evaluation events. There are so many showcases. There's so many all tournament teams. There's so many All-American games, there's Perfect Game All-American games, there's Baseball Factory All-American games, there's all of this noise, right? There's so much noise out there in today's travel baseball landscape because you don't know which one's the real, All-American games, if there really is a real one, right? It's not like, and this is something that I had to start to conceptualize as well when I went through college baseball. I'll never forget it. We would have a weekend series during, conference play. So NC State is where I played my D1 baseball, and every weekend we would usually play against other ACC teams, which means if we're facing off against Florida State, and Florida State is ranked like third in the nation, and we sweep them, and let's say we're ranked 18th in the nation, we're probably going to jump a few spots to maybe like 12th in the nation or 9th in the nation because we just swept a top 3 team, right? So one thing that I would always look forward to is when we were on a shuttle to take us from basically our apartment complex to the to our campus at NC State. We had off-campus housing, and that's where all the baseball players lived. But basically, we had a shuttle that took the entire campus to class, basically. I remember being on my phones, and I was on Twitter back then. I'm not so much on Twitter anymore, but I would always refresh like Baseball America, USA Today, Perfect Game, if I haven't already said that one. D1 Baseball was growing back then in those stages as well. And all of them had beat writers or national writers, right, that covered college baseball. So think of these guys, and no disrespect to them by any means. Like, I think what they do is great, and they take their job incredibly seriously. But you're basically hinging these national rankings on one person's decision. Maybe it's a group or a board that decides these rankings in college baseball. But back to my point, the All-American games, right? Perfect Game All-American games, Baseball America All-American games. There PBR All-American. Are you an All-American if you hit one of them or all of them? Like, what truly defines that? That's what gets so confusing in today's landscape of travel baseball, showcase baseball, which teams you have to be on. And that's where I'm going to be honest with you guys, a lot of travel baseball nowadays has turned into this like hierarchy. Kind of like what I mentioned with FTB in those really, really early stages. There's going to be an A team, but there's going to be a B team, and then there's going to be basically these funneling teams that go all the way at the bottom to more or less like a state or a region. Think like this, let's just say travel ball team A, but they have a region of the Southeast, and then they have a region for Texas, and then they have a region for the West Coast, and then they have the region for the Northeast, right? All these teams are going to try grabbing the best players in that region, but there might be only one that actually funnels up to that A, B, or C team, right? And these are the more nationally ranked teams. These are going to be where they want to produce the best baseball players because that makes their program look the best. It does make sense looking at it from that lens because now I'm able to look at it from that lens. When I was a player, I didn't really conceptualize the understanding of the, almost in a way, a funnel, because they're trying to funnel in the best players of certain regions up to that, showcase team or to that nationally ranked team. So these are some of my thoughts about travel baseball in today's age. Is it necessarily worth it? And this is something that I mentioned with you guys earlier, is what are the years that you're supposed to be doing travel baseball? Is there a best time to do it? When do you get your best bang for your buck? And again, speaking from my experience, I didn't do a high level of nationally traveling, travel ball. When I was a freshman in high school, I barely did travel ball. Sophomore year, I focused more or less on development. The summer after sophomore year, mostly focused on development. The summer after my junior year, before I was going into my senior year, guys, that is the prime time to go after travel ball and make sure that you're on the stage of college coaches and MLB scouts, because you'd be so surprised. There are so many times and so many stories that I've heard being around the game for really 10 years post high school, either at the college level or at the professional level, where there are guys in their junior season, they're not the best player, but they really focus on development. They get after it in the gym. They do everything possible because they feel the pressure of my time is running out. And if you are a parent of a 10th, 11th, or 12th grader and you're starting to feel that, it's completely normal. It's not your fault, but at some capacity, your son will run out of time and he will graduate. And is he going to necessarily have that, scholarship to play baseball at the next level? Time will tell, right? But there's so many of these stories that I was starting to mention at when players are turning into the best versions of themselves. They are developing rapidly, and everybody's player development curve will look differently, right? Not every player is going to develop at the same speed. For example, I didn't hit my first big field home run until my sophomore year of college. So that definitely took me some time. And by the way, if you are curious, I bought a camera mount and I'm kind of testing it out for the first time. I think it's pretty cool. I'm definitely keeping my eyes on the road. But yeah, as far as these players that develop rapidly, they feel like they're not the best player their junior year of high school, and then out of nowhere, like I mentioned with the MLB scouts, watching some of these players, out of nowhere, these players will get on college coaches' radars, they'll land a commitment, and they'll get on MLB scouts' radars within a couple of weeks, or if not a month, of maybe just well-performed, travel ball events. So that's where I do believe it is pretty important to make sure that you're either on the right team or on the right field. Being on the right team is playing for the best, travel ball organization that you can play on, guys. That is so, so, so important. It's the best organization or highest ranked team you can play on, not necessarily sit the bench on. I want you to be playing. If you're listening to this video, I want your son to be playing, because he's not going to be able to develop if he's not the best player. With the caveat of course, if your son's not playing right now and he's not on the best team, and he's not working hard and he's not pushing himself to be the best version of himself, who's going to do that for him, right? You can't do that for him as the parent. His coaches can't do that for him. His high school coaches, his travel ball coaches aren't the one to blame. The only person really to blame is the player, and that's for the player to realize. Like, yes, I want you to send this video over to your son. And by the way, if you are a parent listening to this video right now and you see any value in what I'm saying or what I'm sharing with you guys, feel free to comment any questions you have down below on this video here on YouTube. I'm going to try my very best to make sure that all comments are being read and, thoroughly discussed your guys' point of view, because you guys are the parents. I do not have a kid. It looks like my camera keeps wobbling a little bit, so noted. But yeah, definitely comment down below any questions that you have as far as the recruiting process or anything like that, because that's something where I want to be able to guide you guys and assist in any way possible. But back to my point though, like travel baseball, there's going to be a point in time where it's really important to play. And if your son's not playing, that's the reality check he needs, right? If he's not playing at a travel ball team or on a travel ball team, what gives you guys the impression that he's going to be able to compete at a college and actually start? Because once you get to college, guess what? Newsflash. It's not about who's, who's buddy with the coach or this or that or anything like that. It all comes down to making sure that you have the possibility to win baseball games. And if you can't win baseball games, what in the world are you doing, right? At the college level. And that's where college coaches, if you have been following college baseball and the head coaching carousel that happens every single year, college coaching and the whole program, they quite literally shuffle out different coaches every year. Yes, the LSUs, the Arkansas, they're going to have consistent coaching. The higher end programs, the D1 programs, NC State, Elliott Avent's been at NC State for like 20-ish years or something like that, give or take, probably more if I had to guess. Those are well-established programs. Maybe the mid-tiers, that's where everyone's going to be shuffling up. So the reason for that is because they haven't been winning enough, guys. Winning is the reason why coaches ultimately will get fired. And if you don't believe that, start following which coach is at which university year after year, and I promise you'll start to realize how much shifting of the landscape there truly is. So just keep that in mind. Winning is really important. So when your son's not playing on a travel ball organization, or it's a really big tournament or a big game and your son's not playing, these are the things that I want you to be able to realize. Hey, if he's not playing right now, is he going to be able to play at the college level? And speaking completely transparently with you guys and being brutally honest, I was not good enough to play on my travel ball organization as a position player. I had Nick Gordon play shortstop. I had Bo Bichette play third base, and like I don't think I could play second base either. I think like Ryan Mountcastle was playing second base and center field. So all three of those guys are probably still in the big leagues. Ryan Mountcastle has had a long career with the Baltimore Orioles. I think he's still with them. Bo Bichette, obviously a lot of people Bo Bichette. He was on our team and he was 3 years younger than me, and he still was way better than me on that travel ball organization in FTB, led by Jared Goodwin. So like these are the things that I want you guys to realize, but doesn't mean it's going to completely write your future as a baseball player. I wasn't good enough to be a position player on that FTB team, but I still pitched, and I was a pretty solid pitcher. I topped out at 90 at the Jupiter tournament, which is coming up here in shortly, if not the time of the recording, in at Roger Dean. But that's where MLB scouts start to recognize me, because that was after my college commitment. But long story short, a lot of you guys know about my playing career. When I was at NC State my freshman year, I did try to pitch, but I did go there as a two-way. And me being a two-way, I always held on to both because I wanted to have multiple opportunities later down in my career, which ultimately helped me out a ton. Because when I made that transition from pitcher to third base my sophomore year of college, that is what put me on the radar of MLB scouts, and that's what got me drafted. I played professional baseball, guys, as a third baseman and mostly shortstop. Played even a little bit of center field. So that was a huge transitional period for me, because I was able to play multiple positions. Again, if I use that defining moment of being on a travel baseball organization and not being able to be a position player as like the end all be all, of course, like that would just tell everyone that I didn't believe in myself and I just gave up a certain position, right? That's where a lot of two-way players, for every parent that joins into my academy that has a two-way player, I will tell them the same exact thing. Keep both positions alive for as long as possible. It's only going to serve your son. It's not going to hurt him in any way, shape, or form. So that's something that I tell every single parent that will join into the academy. But again, guys, travel ball, the playing time, the development, the culture of winning, these are things that are needed to develop young men or young kids into men, because these are the things that will be needed at that next level at a college program. It's just, there's no way around it. I think someone just ran a red light. That's crazy. Just light's been green for a solid minute now, so I don't know what's going on here. But yeah, travel ball, guys, it can be amazing, and it definitely was amazing playing on such an amazing team, playing on the right team or the right field. For those that don't know what I meant by it when I said that earlier, being on the right team is playing on that FTB, playing on that showcase team, making sure that you have everything good to go. You're playing on the right team. Your basically attention's on you guys. If you're playing on the right field, you're basically playing against the right team. That's what that quote means. It's not necessarily where you play as far as a travel ball organization. It matters more or less how you develop, or how your son develops in the opportunities that he is given. So and all this like idea of the expensive exposure, guys, it's not a dollar amount that is going to help your son get committed. It's his internal thoughts about who he is and what he's capable of, and his self-belief. Guys, I can't stress this enough. Like, again, I didn't play a position for my FTB team. I wasn't good enough. I believed in myself still where I got to my college program, and I believed in myself still then as a freshman who barely even got playing time on the mound. I did get playing time because I was like the Saturday starter. For those that don't know, that means I earned my spot as the number 2 starter in the pitching rotation. I was a starting pitcher my freshman year in the ACC, and everything just went terrible. My arm started giving me issues. I had like an 8 ERA for the year. It just wasn't a good year for me. But you have to have that self-belief. You have to build these habits internally. The work ethic has to be there, of course, if you're trying to play a D1 sport, in any sport. These are the things that matter way more than just spending a couple $1,000s at a showcase event just to get his exit velocity, which could have been very easily done on a hit tracks at your local indoor facility. So these are the things that I wish parents just understood. It's not about how how big the check is that you write a certain program or an organization or this or that. It's more or less about the individual, which is why you hear so many stories about, this player or that player in the Northeast making it big and, making it to the big leagues. Well, it's because they had that self-belief. It's because they had the understanding of how to develop and how to become a better player. It's not because it was just like handed to an individual or anything like that. It was because of the player. It was because of the individual. And there's a quote actually that I remember in pro ball that's pretty aligned with what we're talking about right now. Is if you were truly a big leaguer or a pro baseball player, or let's just use the example of if your son was truly or is truly a college baseball player, he will play college baseball. Pretty simple, quote, right? If if your son's destiny is to play college baseball, he's going to play college baseball. If he's not, he's not, right? And if he's going to play D1 baseball or college baseball, he's always a D1 or college caliber type of player, right? And that kind of struck me because there were times where I was a pro later in my career in AAA, hit some injuries where I had a lot of self-doubt. And someone told me that, he was an older teammate. Hey, if you're a pro baseball dude, dude, pro baseball. If you're a pro baseball player, dude, you've always been a pro baseball player, and no one's gonna take that away from you. And basically, you've always been that. Even when you were 7 years old, you were a pro baseball player back then, right? And that got me thinking. I was like, yeah, I am made for this. I am who I. Maybe it was like a little bit of like a self-reflecting exercise that he wanted me to do, but. Yeah, either way, another bullet point that I wrote down, guys, is some teams are going to just chase trophies and they're not going to do too much training, right? And if you're new to the whole travel ball organization, new to college baseball recruiting, new to highly competitive baseball out there, don't be alarmed when travel ball organizations and teams do not practice. They are expected that you are doing that practice on your own because that is what it's going to take to play college baseball. And if you don't want to practice on your own, guess what? You're not going to develop, and it's going to show when you're at these travel ball tournaments, right? So that's a huge piece of advice that I'd want to give not only players out there, but the parents. Make sure that your son's actually doing something on his own. A lot of the high school baseball players that I work with, we have a hard cutoff of 8th grade and older. They need to be taking that initiative to doing that work on them or by themselves, because if they don't do it on them by themselves, who's going to do it for them? And it's not like the students that I work with need to be taught how to hold a bat for the first time. That's elementary in my opinion. That's why I don't work with those younger individuals. So you got to be doing stuff on your own, guys. And if you're not, you're going to be truly just falling behind the rest of the competition. So also, this was a good one. This was something that I heard. It was actually not baseball related, but don't mistake busy for productive, right? Really, really powerful quote, right? Because a lot of these times we want to just get busy, 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 but we're not using that time that we're busy to being as productive as possible with what we could be using in that time. For example, when I was in high school, I went to the gym twice a day. I did 2-a-days. It's, in my opinion, not super, uncommon to do this. But either way, I did 2-a-days. None of my friends really did it. None of my teammates really did it. I took that initiative by myself because I wanted to get better. It was as simple as that. And there were times where I felt like I was going to the local YMCA and I was just doing stuff just to do stuff. I was sweating at the end, and that made my parents feel like I was working really, really hard. But at the end of the day, I was just busy. I wasn't using the knowledge that, of course, I have now on what I should be doing in the gym to better myself as a baseball player. Using rotational exercises, making sure that my core is going to stay strong, making sure that my explosiveness is going to be there, and that's something that I'm training and measuring to see that growth, right? These are all the things that I've started to learn over the years because I've been able to play professional baseball. I played D1 baseball as well. So these are the things that I just wish that a lot of parents and players understood a little bit more. Is don't be just busy, be productive in what we're actually doing, because that's going to mean so much more in the long run. Another area is like some kids will play like 80 plus games in their middle school and early high school years. I think that is a complete waste because this is what a lot of also families just don't understand about travel baseball. Travel baseball is just going to play, 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 and play, play, play some more, right? That's not ever going to develop your son's physicality or really making him stronger in any way, shape, or form. It is going to make him tired and possibly frustrated in the game of baseball because there's a ton of failure. And that's another thing that a lot of families will neglect, is really the mental side, making sure that we're using frameworks or just being able to overcome any struggles, right, that your sons ultimately will face in baseball because, again, there's so much failure. Your son's never putting away time to physically develop. And that's where, in my honest opinion, if there's a time to go into the travel ball circuit and play for a nationally recognizable team, it's in between your junior and senior year. Yes, if you have the resources to spend like crazy in between sophomore and junior year, you can do that too. If you want to do it in between freshman and sophomore year, yes, you can do that too. I'm not saying you can't do this. I also wish you guys listening to this realize I'm a human being by now in this video. But the idea of and is just really, really powerful for me, because I think everyone in this world, it seems like nowadays, is trying to be as split as possible. It's either black or white. It's either this or that, right? And I just want people to understand that there's no one way to land a D1 scholarship. There's no one way to throw harder. There's no one way to bulk up, right? So it's not this or that. Sometimes it's just a simple and, right? So I think, like, yes, your son can play on the travel ball circuit in a summer before his junior year, in between his sophomore year and junior year. Yes, he can do that, and he can develop his skills. He goes to the gym during the week when there aren't games. He's able to physically get bigger, stronger, and faster. Yes, you can do all of that and play in travel ball tournaments, without a doubt. So these are just the things that I'm thinking about on this little ride along episode. Let's talk about real quick, actually, if you guys are interested in working one-on-one with me inside my Mendoza Baseball Academy. Again, I typically work with like 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, but my hard cutoff is 8th grade and above. Your son has to be currently in 8th grade or above to work with me. Go down below in the description to learn a little bit more about my program. It's called the Triple Play, where I focus on the physical, mental, and recruiting. So go ahead and do that right now if you're interested, at the very least, about who I am, what my program's all about, and that way we can move the needle forward if that's something that you guys are interested in doing. All right, we just got back to the parking garage, so I'm going to be wrapping this up here shortly, but what I want you guys to also understand is the goal isn't just going to be playing in more games. That's never going to be helpful to play at the next level. If you look at a D1 athlete, typically around like 185 is their typical weight, around 6 foot is a typical height. You have to be athletic to be able to play baseball at the next level. It's as simple as that, right? And if we're never focusing on that, we're never going to get bigger, faster, and stronger. So that's just an area that I want you guys to be able to recognize, that if your son never hits the gym and he's never on a structured program, he's going to have a tough time with, getting bigger and stronger and faster. Or he's going to be like me, where, yes, there's more than one way to get to the D1 scholarship, right? But he might be confusing busy with productive. And that's something that I look back at my career, look back at my time at that YMCA that I spent way too much time at, developing my skills and getting bigger, stronger, and faster. But I wasn't productively using my time to get bigger, faster, and stronger. Let's just use this example. It would take me 2 hours to get bigger, stronger, faster. But if I know what I know now, it would only take me 1 hour, because I'd be working on the right things that actually directly translate to baseball. Let's see any other notes that I have written down. Yeah, like I said, guys, travel baseball, it's not good or bad. It's really how we use it to our advantage, because of course, travel baseball, we want to get seen by as many people and as many college coaches as possible. That's only going to make our lives easier in the whole college baseball recruiting process. So I don't want you guys to think like you have to do it, or you don't have to do it, right? There's no laws written that there's one way to get a D1 scholarship. Yes, I always thought, how can I put myself in rooms of people or teams of people or events where I gave myself the highest likelihood to succeed. I remember thinking to myself, okay, wow, FTB has a really good organization. It seems like year after year after year after year, 80% of their guys go on to play college baseball. Okay, so I want to be on that team because I want to ultimately play college baseball. It's turns into like a math game, right? And then when you start thinking like that, okay, only 7% of high school baseball players play in college. I thought it was higher than that. Shouldn't it be higher than that? No, it's not. It's just that I've always surrounded myself in rooms of people or teammates of people like FTB where I was like, okay, I feel very strongly that I'm going to play D1 baseball, and that's just part of my path, right? Let's see what else we got. Um, don't get stuck with the hype style players, especially at the showcase events, the All American games, all the gear that's given. Guys, there's plenty of All-Americans that were in these showcase events that did not pan out in college or in professional baseball, and I played probably 5 times longer than them in professional baseball, and these guys were All-Americans or this or that or whatever, and these guys had the hype around their name, but they didn't play as long as I did because, of course, I was nitty and gritty. I was consistent. There was other parts of my game that I had that they didn't, and certain teams valued the skills that I had rather than the skills that they had. Um, but yeah, guys, if you, I think that basically wraps things up. One thing I want to make sure that you guys also understand is just focus on that environment that you're putting your son in, right? That environment is who is your son's coach? What are the teammates like? What are the values? Because ultimately, those are the things that matter the most. And that's where I urge you guys, like, when your son trains, just it matters more where he's training, right? It matters more about the individual. And baseball is turning to a very individual style game, and I don't necessarily love or hate that, but that's where the training can be more individualized, and that's why we see players developing at such a larger rate. I think I saw like a 16-year-old throwing 100 miles an hour, which is absolutely insane, but that's the development that's happening that much quicker because that individual is probably surrounding himself with people that know what they're talking about as far as rotational strength as a pitcher, arm care, building up that arm strength, things like that. So also, if you got this far, and this is something that I kind of just want to test out, but if you've made it this far, just because I want to make sure that I'm like rewarding the people that have made it this far, let's go ahead and let's put like a random keyword. It's going to notify basically me that you've made it this far, and you're a real one. So let's use the word. Ooh, I could talk about merch for a second, but that's going to be in the bio as well. But let's use the word triple crown. Triple crown. If you've made it this far, just comment the word triple crown down below. I'll know exactly what that means. You'll know exactly what that means. No one else will know exactly what that means. And then that way I can just hang out and make sure that I'm building relationships with the people that have actually made it this far and actually see value in the content that I'm posting. If you guys are interested to learn a little bit more about my triple play program, you can watch this video on the screen right now. It's going to go through, again, the physical, the mental, the recruiting. It's going to go through a little bit about like where you guys are currently at and what you guys are facing, especially with the highly competitive recruiting climate. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions, parents, players, coaches, if you have any questions whatsoever, go ahead and drop them down below in the comments.